Dear Sagittarius, you know something. There's a truth that few people ever tell you, that some people walk into your life not to stay, but to awaken a part of you that's been asleep for far too long. And for a Sagittarius, a soul born to move, to seek, to break free, love has never been a destination. It is a sacred journey, woven by God with freedom, trials, and grace. That's why not everyone can hold the heart of a Sagittarius. They don't need someone to repeat yesterday. They need a soul deep enough to help create tomorrow. Over the next 30 minutes, I'll share with you 4 zodiac signs, not only those who pair well with Sagittarius in love, but the ones who can reach the most sacred part of them, the part that still believes in true love, the part that never gave up hope. And I believe, if you're listening to this, maybe you're one of them. Or maybe you once loved a Sagittarius and couldn't forget them. Or maybe you are a Sagittarius and you've been quietly asking God, is there really someone out there meant for this soul that's tired of flying alone? Let this message come to you as a signal from the universe, because no encounter is ever an accident, and no heart ever gets lost without leaving behind a trail back home. If you're ready to receive the one God has sent, write this down below the video. I am ready to receive my destined love. Because when you affirm that with a sincere heart, you're not just opening an invitation, you're aligning with a sacred energy that's been waiting for you in the unseen realm. And if these words mean something to you, leave a like. Share this video as a silent prayer. Who knows, someone out there might need to hear this, right at this exact moment. Now sit back, close your eyes if you need to, and listen closely to what's calling your name. From deep within the Sagittarius soul, to discover someone through whom you finally see yourself more clearly. And what makes the love of a Sagittarius so unique is that they never love halfway. They love with a soul that's wandered through many lifetimes. They love with a heart that's seen betrayal, but still chooses to believe. That's why I'm always moved when I speak about this sign. Because I once saw a Sagittarius man standing quietly at the wedding of the woman he once loved deeply, smiling, offering a silent blessing. Not because he didn't love her anymore, but because he understood. Love is not about keeping. Love is wishing someone happiness, even if you're no longer part of their story. And not everyone can love like that. Not everyone can bear the feeling of loving someone while still setting them free. Sagittarius is not afraid of being alone. They're only afraid of being with someone who no longer lets them be themselves. In a world that's growing busier by the minute and filled with pretense, the way a Sagittarius loves is becoming rare. A love without surveillance, without control. A love that chooses freedom, yet holds responsibility. A love that knows when to stay and when to go. You might be asking yourself, how can someone crave love and still fear being tied down? I once asked a Sagittarius woman that question. She looked at me with a soft, sad smile and said, "I'm not afraid of commitment. I'm afraid of losing the light in my eyes by living a life that no longer belongs to me." It's a sentence I'll never forget. So if you're loving a Sagittarius, what they need from you isn't a schedule. It's not empty promises. They need to be seen. They need to feel this. If they are the sky, you're not trying to fence them in. You're opening your arms to fly with them. They don't need someone following behind. They don't need someone running ahead. They need someone steady enough to walk beside them and wise enough to know when to be silent, when to reach out and hold their hand. And I say this with all the honesty of someone who's once been lost in love. If you love a Sagittarius, you must be willing to love as if you are not afraid to lose. Because for them, love is not a game to be won. It is a spiritual journey to become more real. In the age we're living in, where everything can be tracked, analyzed, and judged, the love of a Sagittarius offers something else entirely. They teach us how to believe again, to believe in instincts, to believe in things that cannot be measured, to believe that encounters are never random. And that belief, it holds immense value, not just for them, but for the world around them. Because when a Sagittarius loves the right person, they don't just bring love, they bring inspiration. They open doors to deeper conversations. They lead others out of their comfort zones. They're the kind of person who will ask you the questions you've spent your whole life avoiding. They will make you dream bigger, live more honestly, and believe more fiercely in yourself. And if love doesn't help us grow, then it's only a temporary attachment. That is what I want you to remember as you hear these words. Now, I invite you to turn inward. If you are a Sagittarius, have you ever loved someone in a way that you couldn't simply walk away? Have you ever left, not because you stopped loving, but because staying would have hurt you both? And if you're not a Sagittarius, but you once loved someone born under this sign, did you ever feel that they were the first wind that made you want to run wide open toward life? But also, the first to teach you the beauty of letting go? Tell me about it in the comments below. Because this isn't just a space for words. It's a place to leave a piece of your soul that once truly trembled. Because love, if it isn't real, leaves nothing behind. But if it is, it never disappears. It just transforms into a greater lesson. And once you understand why the love of a Sagittarius is so beautiful, you'll also understand this. Not everyone is meant to walk beside them. It must be someone radiant enough not to dim their light and quiet enough to hear what's whispering inside them. But there are a few signs. When they appear, they'll stop Sagittarius from running. They'll make them stay, not because they're tired, but because they've finally found someone worthy of walking this sacred path beside them. And that is what I want to tell you in the next chapter. There is a kind of person who, when they enter the life of a Sagittarius, they don't just leave footprints. They leave behind an entire storm of memory. And if I had to name the one who can make a Sagittarius stop hiding, stop wandering, and step boldly into a love that is fierce and complete, it would be Aries. Not because Aries is gentle, not because they are indulgent, but because they dare. They dare to challenge, dare to love wildly, dare to step into the fire without armor. And only someone like that can make Sagittarius feel, finally, someone who doesn't ask me to shrink myself. Both Aries and Sagittarius belong to the fire element, but their flames burn differently. If Sagittarius is the torch that lights the way, Aries is the first spark that ignites the journey. If Sagittarius is the burning sunset at the edge of the horizon, then Aries is the sunrise that knocks on your heart with a bold, fearless whisper, "I'm here, shall we begin?" I once heard a Sagittarius woman say softly, "To love an Aries is to feel like you're alive all over again, young, wild, and unafraid." And I understood exactly why she said that. Because while the world is busy trying to tame Sagittarius, putting them in boxes, logic, rules, Aries is the one who cheers for their beautiful madness. They don't ask why, they just say, "Let's go." And sometimes, that's all a Sagittarius needs to hear. No one truly understands the loneliness of someone who always has to be strong. No one sees what lies beneath the humor and wanderlust, a soul that sometimes is simply tired. Except Aries. Because Aries doesn't ask if you need help. They show up, they pull you up, and they say, "We fight, but this time, you're not fighting alone." And for a Sagittarius, that's enough to make them believe again. To believe in people. To believe in unconditional bonds. To believe that love can burn brightly without burning your soul. There's a very particular kind of beauty in the love between these two fire signs. They don't hold each other back. They push each other toward the highest version of who they're meant to become. Aries never makes Sagittarius smaller. They remind them of how big their dreams once were, of how boldly they used to live, of who they were before the world taught them fear. And any love that helps you remember who you truly are is a love worth keeping. Have you ever met someone who made you feel like you didn't have to explain yourself? Didn't have to hide your wildness, your dreams, your inner child? Tell me about them in the comments. Because if they come to your mind now, it might be because your soul still needs them to return. True love doesn't shrink us to fit into someone else's world. True love is a mirror reflecting back the greatness we had forgotten was always there. And in the mirror of Aries' eyes, Sagittarius sees their own light again. Now, I'm not saying Aries is the perfect match for every Sagittarius, but I do believe they're often the first to prove that love doesn't mean the loss of freedom. Instead, they show Sagittarius that when you love the right person, freedom doesn't disappear. It expands, so two people can fly together instead of one constantly running alone. That's the kind of love God didn't create to possess, but to awaken, to reignite passion, to rekindle purpose, to remind us every soul was born with a counterpart that burns just as bright. But you know, Not every day calls for someone who's just as radiant. There are days, in the middle of storms, on the longest stretches of the road, when Sagittarius doesn't need a spark, they need gentleness. Someone soft enough to soothe the burns they never show. Not a flame, but a quiet stream of water, flowing gently through the hidden corners of their soul, whispering, "You don't have to be strong today, you only have to be real." And that person might just be the one who appears next. A soul who doesn't conquer Sagittarius with speed, but with silent understanding, lit by the gentle glow of the moon. Are you ready to meet them? Some doors don't open with keys, they open with softness. And the heart of Sagittarius, though it seems wild, fearless, untamed, is actually just such a door that once slammed shut from broken promises, a door cracked from being dismissed, from not being trusted, a door that seems impossible to open. But in truth, sometimes all it takes is the lightest touch to make it tremble. And Cancer, child of the moon, keeper of the unseen waters, is the one who knows how to reach that place. Not through force, not through reason, but through quiet presence, through eyes that listen, and through a love that is neither loud nor rushed. When the world asks Sagittarius, "Who are you?" they laugh. They tell stories. They make crowds laugh along with them. But when Cancer asks that same question, Sagittarius goes quiet, because Cancer doesn't ask with words. Cancer asks with a look, with warmth, with a feeling that makes Sagittarius, for the first time, think, maybe I don't have to run anymore. In astrology, Cancer is the mother of the Zodiac, ruled by the moon, symbol of emotion, memory, and unconditional protection. And in their love with Sagittarius, Cancer doesn't come to set things on fire. They come to cool the wounds. I once heard a Sagittarius say, "To love a Cancer feels like sitting by the hearth in winter and realizing I'd been cold for far too long without knowing it." And it's true. Not everyone understands that behind Sagittarius's sun-filled smile, there's a child who was once left behind, told they dreamed too much. Loved in a way that forced them to shrink themselves into someone else's idea of who they should be. Sagittarius has been labeled as too much, not serious, self-centered. But Cancer sees the opposite. They see a soul who smiles so others won't feel uncomfortable. A heart that walks ahead because it's afraid others might have to wait. A spirit that keeps saying, "I'm okay," even when everything inside is falling apart. With Cancer, for the first time in their life, Sagittarius is allowed to be soft, to cry, to be tired, to say, "Today I don't want to be strong," and not be judged. Cancer's love isn't meant to bind. It is meant to heal, not to hold you with hands, but with patience. Not a love that says, "I need you to change for me," but one that whispers, "I'll be right here," when you're ready to return to yourself. And sometimes it's not the one who loves Sagittarius the most that is able to stay in their life. It's the one gentle enough, still enough, respectful enough, not to crush the wings Sagittarius spent years repairing on their own. Do you believe that the one who heals you most deeply might not be the one who's most like you, but the one who's the opposite? The one who doesn't chase you, doesn't pull you back, but simply stays like a porch light, like a quiet riverbank, and waits for you to find your own way home. Tell me about that person, if you've ever had one. Someone who didn't try to fix you, but simply stayed beside you, in silence. Maybe they were a partner, maybe they were a friend you lost, but once they were home. Cancer's love isn't a spark, it's moonlight, subtle, gentle, steady. It doesn't light up every corner, but it glows just enough to keep you from feeling alone in the dark. And sometimes, like a gift from God, it's that very moonlight, not the sun, that guides you out of the restless dream of loneliness. But you know, not every day Sagittarius seeks comfort. There are days when their spirit rises up, when the big questions about destiny, the universe, the meaning of life come flooding in. And they don't need to be soothed. They need someone who dares to walk beside them into the deepest parts of the soul. Someone who doesn't need to comfort, but is deep enough to go there with them, to stand where few dare to stand. And that person doesn't arrive as fire, doesn't arrive as water. They arrive as wind, as thought, as vision, unbounded. And that opens a different kind of door. There are people who don't come to love you in the usual way. They come to unlock things in you never knew existed. And if there's anyone strange enough to make a Sagittarius sit still, in silence, but without feeling trapped, it is Aquarius. Not with promises, not with longing stares, but with an energy that makes Sagittarius stop asking, "What are we?" and start wondering, "What could we become together?" Aquarius is an air sign, ruled by Uranus, the planet of revolution, brilliance, and thoughts that break boundaries. And like Sagittarius, Aquarius does not live to follow. They live to discover. They don't love to possess. They love to rise together. I've seen two people like that meet like parallel lines that by some miracle cross at a single point, right when they stopped trying to be anyone but themselves. With Aquarius, Sagittarius is finally allowed to be real. No need to play strong. No need to be the joker in every room. No need to pretend they're okay, because Aquarius doesn't care about surface. They care about essence. They don't ask, "What do you do for a living?" They ask, "What do you believe in?" even when no one else does. And Sagittarius, with all their deep questions about fate, faith, the soul, and the cosmos, finds in Aquarius someone who isn't afraid of the truth. In fact, they're eager to walk into it together. Both of them carry maps in their minds, maps of uncharted worlds. And when they touch, they don't try to decode each other. They choose to explore together. They don't love from need. They love like two astronauts, observing, noticing, in awe, at every new layer of the soul revealed in the other. In a world full of rules, Sagittarius and Aquarius are the ones rewriting the script. No on time. No, this is how it should be. No, do as expected. Just a quiet agreement. We will keep wondering. I once heard a Sagittarius whisper, with Aquarius, for the first time, I didn't need to be impressive, charming, or perfect. I only had to be myself. And in that honesty, they saw each other. No words, no definitions, no explanations. Have you ever met someone who made the world feel too small to hold the two of your burning souls? Someone who made you stop explaining and start experiencing? If you have, tell me about them. Because connections like that don't come around twice in a lifetime. And if you haven't, maybe they're hearing this right now. At the very same time, you are. Love with Aquarius is not ordinary. It is a symphony between intuition and intellect, between silent harmony and endless wonder. They don't come to make you feel safe. They come to remind you that freedom is not just about going far, but going deep. Freedom isn't running from commitment. It's finding the one person beside whom you no longer need to run from yourself. And that is why Aquarius can walk with Sagittarius through unfamiliar skies, through questions no one else dares to ask, through long nights filled with wonder. But even then, even in that vast, brilliant space, Sagittarius sometimes dreams of something simpler. Not the cosmic conversations, not the lofty ideals, but a gaze that softens them, a presence that makes them want to pause, not out of exhaustion, but because they finally feel they've arrived at a place they belong. And the one who can do that doesn't come as fire, doesn't come as water, nor wind. They arrive like a scent of balance, delicate, graceful, so beautiful. Sagittarius no longer wants to leave. Are you ready to meet someone like that? Not every storm takes you away, not every flame burns you down, and not everyone who passes through a Sagittarius's life makes them want to return. But if there's someone gentle enough not to hold them back, yet powerful enough to make them stay, it is Libra. Libra doesn't keep up with Sagittarius through speed. They match them with rhythm, a rhythm as light as breeze, as soft as silk, yet strong enough to calm the wildest storm within. In astrology, Libra is ruled by Venus, planet of beauty, love, and harmony. They are the bridge between freedom and connection. They don't love with possession. They love with the art of balance. And for Sagittarius, who has long believed love means losing oneself, meeting Libra is an entirely new experience. I once heard a Sagittarius confess, "I never believed in stability until I met Libra. They didn't try to hold me back. They simply made me want to stay." And in that phrase, "want to stay," lies the greatest difference. Sagittarius only stays when their heart feels seen and never caged. And only Libra, by loving without wounding freedom, can create that space. Libra doesn't ask, "Where are you?" They ask, "How is your heart today?" They don't need grand promises about the future. Squirrelo. They only ask for your real presence, right now. They don't rush, they don't demand, they don't push, they wait with patience. For Sagittarius to slow their steps, to finally learn, peace doesn't come from running forward. It comes from standing beside the right person. In a hurried world where everything demands quick answers, clear labels, fast results, meeting someone who makes you want to slow down, to breathe deeper, to stay longer. That's a rare gift, a whisper from God. Have you ever met someone who didn't attract you with drama or dazzle, but with the way they listened to things no one ever asked you? With the way they made you feel that you didn't have to be anyone else, and still, you were completely loved? If you have, do you believe that real love doesn't come when someone catches up to you, but when you choose to stop because for the first time, you don't want to be anywhere else? Tell me, not for me, but for you, to remind yourself that your heart once had a reason to believe. Libra's love is a place, not a chain, but an invitation. You don't have to go anywhere to become yourself. Here you are still you, and you are still loved. And that is what makes Sagittarius, the one who has walked away, who has feared being tied down, finally stay. Not because anyone made them, but because for the first time, they feel like they belong, without losing themselves. Some loves are sparks, some loves are moonlight, some are wind that open invisible gates, and some are a gentle home where we no longer have to run. There are loves that travel with us through the vastness of the universe, but there is a love that becomes the soft roof above us, where Sagittarius no longer has to hide. And maybe, in this complicated world, we're all searching, not for someone to change us, but for someone who makes us want to stay exactly as we are. Love, for some, is a destination. For others, a journey. But for Sagittarius, love is a call that doesn't ring from a phone, but echoes from the deepest layer of the soul. A call that has no sound, but if you listen closely, you'll know when it comes. On this journey, you've heard about the souls that can walk into the life of Sagittarius, Aries, who reignites their fire, Cancer, who heals the softest parts they forgot, Aquarius, who journeys with them into the depths of thought and faith, and Libra, who makes them stop, not because they're tired, but because they've found something they can finally call home. But remember, what Sagittarius truly needs has never been perfection. They don't ask for someone always on time, always logical, always pleasing. They ask for someone real, someone who lives in alignment with their soul, someone who respects their freedom, and someone sincere enough not to harm their dreams. If you are a Sagittarius or have loved one, hold this in your heart. They're not looking for someone to walk with them forever. They're looking for someone who makes them want to come back every single day. Because to a Sagittarius, love is not a rope that pulls them in. It's a light that guides them home to someone worthy. And if you've made it this far, perhaps deep in your heart, you too are realizing something. A name, a memory, an unfinished dream, or maybe just a quiet space waiting for the right soul to enter. If you believe love is a sacred journey, a divine orchestration beyond calculation, a meeting that was never random, then leave a message for the universe. I am ready to receive my destined love. Because when you speak those words aloud, you're not just calling for love, you're calling back the most beautiful part of yourself. And if this video has touched something inside you, even just a little, share it like a silent blessing. Because someone out there might need to hear this. Right at the moment they're about to give up. Love doesn't come when we're perfect, it comes when we're real. And when it does, remember, you are worthy of a love that is free, that is sacred, and that is true to the very end.